Welcome to Reimagined Childhood, brought to you by Early Childhood Christian Network, where we equip you with the tools you need so you can confidently care for and teach young children. We know you want to provide the very best early childhood experience for children and their parents. But sometimes you feel frustrated and ill equipped because the training required is not interesting or applicable to your daily needs in the classroom. In every episode, we reveal practical, applicable strategies to use in your classroom that will create a lasting impact and help children build the foundations they need for a lifetime of success. It's time to reimagine our approach to childhood. I'm your host, Monica Healer. A cheerful heart is good medicine. Have you heard that proverb before? Today on the podcast, we're talking with Lisa Nelson about laughter and humor in early childhood classrooms. We'll talk a little bit about the difference between laughter and humor and the science behind why it helps with learning. And then we just get practical on how you bring more humor into your classroom. But first, let me tell you a little about Lisa. Lisa bridges the gap to support healthy child outcomes through her experience in teaching family engagement strategies and promoting physical safety, nutrition, and outdoor play. Lisa's career includes leadership roles in Head Start and pre-K programs, development of projects promoting access to healthcare for children, and training for both early childhood educational professionals and parents through Texas A&M AgriLife. She has a lot of spinning plates all the time. So take a deep breath, smile big, and let's dive into a conversation about laughter. Lisa Nelson, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you, Monica. It's a joy to be here.
So, our topic today is humor and laughter in early childhood. Give me your initial thoughts, and then we'll dive into defining humor and laughter and why it's important.
Oh, my initial thoughts is we have so much to be thankful for and to be joy-filled about. And when our heart and our desire is on Him, we will love and teach the children from a place of ourselves being filled up. So sharing that joy that we have with our children, and what a great way to spread joy using laughter and humor in our classroom.
What you're saying is really powerful. I think as the adult in the classroom, as we are filled with joy, hopefully that laughter, humor, the silliness, the fun of the day just naturally comes out, don't you think?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start out by defining what's the difference between humor and laughter, or are they the same thing?
They are different. Humor is the mind's discovery that people, objects, or situations evoke a certain feeling or an expression of appreciation. It's a response to something funny. Humor refers to the stimulus,
Okay.
as in a joke. So you want to play along with me for a minute?
Sure.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Water.
Water, who?
What are you doing today?
There you go.
Humor evokes a physical response, which is the laughter. And that laughter, or that stimulus, is characterized by distinct, repetitive vocal sounds, facial expressions, and contractions of muscles. So that's our giggles, our belly laughs, even our snorts and wheezes. A really fun thing to do as a teacher is to teach the children new vocabulary words associated with the joys of laughter. So, for example, we're going to learn about giggles today. What is a giggle? Well, a giggle is a soft, silly sound. It's a type of laughter, but it's softer. So let's practice. The teacher models it, invite the children to participate in it. And it's amazing the contagiousness of joy. And then move on to the boisterous laugh. Children have a ball with that.
I can just imagine. I mean, sitting with students and just practice. Let's practice our giggles. Let's practice those belly laughs, or even let's practice the snorts, because we know those things just naturally make the rest of us laugh too. You're right. It's very contagious. Laughter is such a contagious thing. What are the benefits of laughter and humor for children?
Great question. In fact, you do one of the above exercise, and you're receiving benefits of laughter and you don't even know it.
That's
So Children and adults alike receive the physiological and social emotional response that contribute to our overall well-being.
Yeah,
Laughter reduces stress and anxiety.
so true.
Our brain releases the feel-good hormones and serotonin while lowering the cortisol, which are the fight or flight
Stress
hormone.
hormones.
Laughter boosts self-esteem, and laughter strengthens relationships because it offers a shared experience. It
Mhm.
also improves cognitive function, memory, attention, and problem-solving skills. When children laugh, they're more likely to remember what they've learned. Laughter primes the brain for learning.
It's interesting that we take for granted laughter is just a natural part of our day. And when you really pause to think about all the actual benefits of laughing, we should probably do it a whole lot more, don't you think? Like all of
Yeah.
us, not just children. Mm.
Yes, and I'm going to give you a little statistic. Do you know that researchers have found that children laugh up to 400 times a day? And we can see that.
Wow.
Their little giggle boxes turn upside down at the drop of a hat. But what do you think in comparison did researchers find adult laughter? How many times a day do you think?
Honestly, probably a dozen or less.
You're very close, 15.
Goodness.
And we're coming to the classroom with the weights of the world, with responsibilities of family and adulting.
Yes.
I think the beauty in laughter too is not to be afraid to engage in it because you, as the teacher and the caregiver, reap beautiful and joyous results from
Yeah.
sharing it with your children.
I hope that statistic is more representative of people like lawyers or bankers or something. Hopefully, for early childhood people, that number would be a lot higher than
You
50.
know, that's a good point because of the environments they're in.
They work in such a more serious environment. Hopefully, for us, there are enough silly antics from our little students that we laugh a whole lot more.
Yes, good point.
Okay, let's get back to connections between laughter and children's learning. You said laughter primes the brain for learning. So talk about that a little bit.
As early educators, we know the impact that play has on early learning and development. The research also tells us that children come into this world ready to experiment and learn through play. Through the new discoveries and positive joy-filled experiences, children are building the architecture of the brain. Laughter, like play, lays the foundation for improving brain plasticity, which improves the brain's ability to adapt and to change. Laughter helps with developing executive function, helping children learn to focus and pay attention and to self-regulate. Also, just depositing into social emotional well-being and building those cognitive skills, creativity, and imagination. But research also tells us that laughter is the fundamental sign of safety and connection. And we do know that when a child feels safe, he's ready
Yeah.
to learn.
Definitely what we know about brain science is that children have to feel physically and emotionally safe in any environment to reach any kind of executive function, which is where the learning happens, right? So a lot of laughter equals a safer classroom, which then in turn equals a lot deeper learning. And we also know that when learning is fun, it sticks. When
Yes.
learning is a chore or feels like a drill, it doesn't stick. So laughter, I love it, love it, love it.
And
Tell me,
the way to summarize that, because you said
yeah.
it so beautifully, is laughter and humor are play
Oh, I love that. Laughter and humor are play for the
for the
brain,
brain.
which is what we know about children.
Mhm.
Play is king in helping them learn everything. So if laughter is play for the brain, we're on the right track. Definitely
You
on
know,
the right
think
track.
think about the first 2 years of life during early infancy. Early laughter is a reaction to a primary care provider. By
Mm.
6 to 9 months, babies will respond to that unexpected surprise.
Mm.
Many will enjoy peekaboo or a
Mm.
little game of Where's Crew?
Yeah.
1 and 2 years of age, the silliness and make believe of naming an object something that it's not, or putting a sock on your head instead of your feet, that's all learning and association with your preschoolers as they develop their language. Their learning not only responds to the stimuli, but they become the stimulus as
Mm,
they
yes.
practice new vocabulary words with rhyming. Silly, Billy, Willie, or
Right.
flipping through a picture book and silly pictures, emotions, rhyming. All that is developmentally appropriate through each of these levels, all foundations of learning.
I feel like we know it intrinsically, but to
Mm.
be able to articulate it is so important. To be able to say, even to a parent, when you're playing peekaboo with your baby, it's so fun and it comes so naturally, but you're actually forming the foundation for their social emotional health, their cognitive learning. You're forming those connections in their brains when you do the fun, silly things like playing peekaboo or reading a silly book with your preschooler. I love that it's so foundational, really, for most of us. It's intrinsic. We already do it, but it's good to be able to recognize the value of what we're actually providing for young children. So tell me, what are some challenges that you see in teachers bringing more laughter to the classroom?
Good question. I think there may be a lack of understanding that humor and laughter play in child development. Just as you said, we're doing the strategies without knowing it, but taking the time to understand the value in play, in laughter, we are building little brains and little lives. I think we have a tendency to stifle that humor,
Mm,
not on purpose, not intentionally, but as teachers, we need to stay on schedule or we're
yeah,
spinning so many plates, right?
you're right.
And even I think a struggle is setting boundaries on humor and
Mm,
laughter. How do we control it? How do we introduce it into our environment so that it's positive and healthy? And what do we do when we see it as a distraction? And I
mm,
have a little example, if you don't
yeah,
mind me sharing.
sure.
I talked with a teacher one time who had a little boy, and we'll call him Larry.
Yeah.
Larry was in a preschool classroom, little 4-year-old. The teacher's word, Larry was a natural born leader. Children loved him and would follow him across the playground, across the room. Larry loved to make people laugh, and it gave him great joy to see others happy. Larry was a connector, but Larry was focused on potty humor, and the
Mm,
teacher wanted it to stop. She told Larry that the children loved him, encouraged him for who he was, that he brought joy to the class, but he couldn't use potty humor there because not all the children would understand it. She
sure.
gave him reasons on the spot in a very gentle way. But Larry said, Miss Laurel, I've got the funnies in my head and I can't help it. So Miss Laurel came to me, and as we talked it through, we came up with a few ideas. Focus on the strength of the child, know the child's family.
Yeah.
She praised his leadership and the
Mm,
way he brings joy to his friends. One extra step she did, which was impactful. She got creative and introduced something new to the classroom. She created a new class job. Larry
oh,
became the caring comedian, the
right.
humor helper. A
Good.
constructive way to build laughter into the whole community,
Mhm.
but yet was establishing such empowerment in a strength he had. So
Yeah.
he was able, with the help of the teacher, to tell a funny knock knock joke, lead a silly song, or simply look for joy.
I love the example of a 4-year-old using potty humor. As adults, we cringe when this happens.
Yeah.
But the reality is, developmentally, threes and fours, what are they doing? They're potty training. They're focused on all those potty words, like learning them for what they really mean.
Mhm.
So it's totally normal. And I think it's important to remember that it's totally normal,
Absolutely.
that potty humor, but we also know that it's socially inappropriate. So what I love that this teacher was so creative in how she handled it, that she didn't just Be affirmed. No potty humor. If you use potty humor, you're going to get in trouble. Go to timeout, or I'm going to call your mom, or we're going to talk to your mom. It really, she found his strengths. She recognized in him, hey, this kid is a leader, and we're going to call that out and then help him find a healthier way to be a leader. As teachers, it's important to recognize some of these behaviors that might be annoying to us. Where's the strength in it?
Mm-hmm.
What could be a place that God is calling them with these unique character qualities that as they grow up will actually become strengths, even though in our early childhood classroom, the child telling potty humor all day is annoying. Refocus him and say, hey, let's create a new job. Now your job is to tell funny jokes. Also, I'm challenging you. So you're going to find a knock knock joke. You're going to practice so that when you come to class, you're ready with a silly song. I would love to know Larry when he's 10 or 15 to go, what happened about that teacher challenging him in that way? Because she really challenged him to grow in that skill rather than just cutting it off, which I love. I think some challenges that I've seen in my own experience, even with myself in the classroom, is staying on schedule. I think sometimes we get really stuck in, we don't have time for this. Giving children a little extra time for the fun is actually really important. Even though staying on schedule matters, you don't want to cause a delay in the rest of the school when you're late to music class or something. But at the same time, being aware that sometimes the silliness is how we can transition somewhere else. I think we'll talk about that when we get to practical tips. I think it's important to just remember that you being silly as an adult in the classroom is okay. And sometimes your class will get riled up when there's something funny happening. And don't automatically feel like you're out of control when that happens. Enjoy the moment with them and then learn good techniques for bringing them back down into a state that feels a little bit more under control for the adult. I'm interrupting this episode really quickly to share something special. It's time for our annual 2-day summer conferences. I'd love to invite you to join us on July 10th and 11th in Georgetown, Texas. That's just north of Austin. Or August 7th and 8th in Lewisville, Texas. That's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Each event includes a variety of breakout sessions to equip early educators at every level. Whether you're a first-year newbie or a decade seasoned veterans, we're bringing in highly qualified, dynamic presenters to lead breakout sessions on every topic you can think of for every age group from birth to kindergarten. Would you like a sneak peek at our keynote speakers this year? Well, listen up. On Thursday, we'll start the day with Dr. Tyler Groves, the author of Growing with One Another, Social and Emotional Learning in Christian Perspective. Then Thursday afternoon, we'll hear from Kristen Mathis and Kendra Worley as they present an active, practical, movement-focused approach to teacher and preschooler regulation from a trauma-informed, brain-friendly, polyvagal approach with a spiritual, biblical basis. Whoa, that was a mouthful, but it's gonna be fun. Then on Friday morning, we'll hear from Dr. Cynthia Small about building family relationships and partnerships for the benefit of the kingdom of God. And we'll finish up our 2 days of learning with a concert by children's worship leader and songwriter Yancey. Registration is open from April 1st until about a week before each event. We'd love to host you either near Austin or in the Dallas-Fort Worth area this summer. Where will you join us this conference season? Check out all of our upcoming events on our website, www.earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com. And now, let's finish up this episode. Okay, let's move to practical tips. How do we practically incorporate more laughter as an actual teaching strategy in our classrooms?
First and foremost, know the interests of your children, their likes and dislikes. Use that information to relate to the child, to introduce new things, to keep the classroom engaging. Learn what books and music and movies children like. But it's also important to consider their cultural backgrounds, their ethnicities. Children from different backgrounds often experience humor in different ways.
True.
Be mindful of that, but incorporate what's important in part of their life. Use laughter to help children build relationships. As a teacher, you have a front row seat and an opportunity to forge those bonds through positive play and laughter.
Yeah.
We were talking about silly books. Oh, and this is where just read with inflection and
Yes.
exaggeration. Children's funny bone gets so tickled with rhyming books. We know that
Yeah.
silly sounds. Invite them into the nonsensical world of a silly book and allow them to involve their whole body.
I love
We
it.
were talking about transitions. Do a silly walk, sing a funny song, or invent a silly dance during transitions. Have fun with laughter yoga.
Okay, talk to me
Um,
about laughter yoga before we move on.
Laughter
What is
yoga,
laughter yoga?
it's a ball. There are countless ways to use it. Circle time, you can use it outside. You're engaging the whole body and sharing the experience. Very similar to what we were talking about vocabulary.
Mhm.
But we can laugh in different ways. So we can laugh the alphabet. Stand together in a circle, take a big deep breath, put your hands over your head. When we exhale, let's practice our giggle. Remember what the giggle is? The giggle is a soft, nervous little silly laugh. So we're going to take a deep breath. Now we're going to giggle. So you can do the boisterous laugh. Laughter yoga is
I
a
love it.
great tension reliever, and it's also a unifier. You can bring children back together
Yeah. Yeah.
with an exercise like that.
Love that. That's so fun. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, and get
Okay.
outside where your volume can go up and you can run and play. It sounds so simple, but it is an important teaching strategy. Use outdoors. Try something new, like we talked about earlier. And you had already mentioned it, break the taboo of
Yeah.
sounds and other noises because they're normal. And it is right in the season where our earliest learners are.
I think something else important to remember, especially with body sounds, is don't overreact as a teacher. The more you can keep a neutral face, the
Mhm.
better. Or just join in the laughter for a minute and then move on. The more you draw attention to it or try to stop it, the funnier it becomes a lot of times to children is because honestly now they're looking at your face and it's turning red and the veins popping out on your neck or in your forehead, and so it just becomes more and more funny. I do think to get it to stop faster is smaller reactions.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, this has been such a fun conversation, Lisa. I think laughter is something that we do without recognizing the value of it. So, this episode today has been fun for me to articulate the value of what we do all day. When you stand in your classroom and just listen to children interacting with each other, almost always somebody is laughing about something. And maybe that's why they laugh 400 times a day and we only laugh 15. We tend to be more serious about life, but there's something so beneficial about being around young children who have a natural exuberance that I think keeps some of us more often in a state of joy than what we would naturally be too. So I'm grateful that we get to be with young kids a lot. All right, my last question for you, Lisa. Our podcast is called Reimagined Childhood. If there was one thing that you could reimagine about our current approach to early childhood, what would that be?
That's a great question. I have a song that comes to mind. Let them be little.
Oh, I love that song. We used to
I
sing it at our
do too.
graduation every year.
I cry every time I
Yes,
hear.
every time.
Yes, but don't rush our little ones to grow up too quickly. Let them play and let them laugh. I think it's important to focus on the whole child development.
Yeah.
And I think now is helping our children build resilience and
Mm,
confidence and problem solve.
mm,
Allow children to take managed risk in the careful observation
mm.
of the teacher, but allow them to make mistakes and learn from them. Build those intentional relationships, which is what we're talking about right here through
Yeah.
play and laughter, and creating those safe environments to encourage children to navigate challenges and
Yeah.
to learn to live with confidence.
Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your expertise and a joke. I appreciate that so much.
You're welcome. It was so fun. I appreciate you having me today.
This episode was a good reminder of how important joy and laughter really are for all of us, not just the children. It was good for me to remember how laughter impacts all stages of development, from infants recognizing their caregiver's happy face versus a sad face, to toddlers who enjoy silly games like peekaboo, to preschoolers who are starting to understand humor a little bit more. Every stage of development benefits when we bring in a little extra laughter. I loved when Lisa said, laughter is play for the brain. It literally stimulates learning for young children. I'd also encourage you to figure out how many times a day you laugh. It was a little shocking to hear her say that children laugh 400 or more times per day, and adults only laugh about 15 times per day. As early childhood professionals, we could raise that average because there are so many silly moments during our days where we hopefully are bursting into laughter along with the students in our care. Would you be willing to create more silly moments in your classroom? Let me leave you with a preschool joke today. Why did the cookie go to the doctor? Because he was feeling crummy. What do you call a bear with no teeth? A gummy bear. Check out our show notes for some other resources to bring a little laughter into your day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Reimagined Childhood with Early Childhood Christian Network, where you'll get practical ideas to implement in your classroom today. You might even be challenged to change your mind about a few things, and you'll always be reminded that your work matters. If you love this episode, would you subscribe and share it with your coworkers, friends, and family? You can connect with us on Instagram at Early Childhood Christian Net. That's Early Childhood Christian Net. And on Facebook at Early Childhood Christian Network. Remember to visit our show notes for more great resources. We're so glad you're here. See you next time.